So is Fire Emblem truly anime chess? And what does that even mean? What is anime chess? So this has been a meme for a long time about Fire Emblem. It's a thing that people have said where, they're like, I'm gonna go play my anime chess. Now, first of all, is Fire Emblem like chess? In some ways it is, in a lot of ways it isn't. But is it fair to say that it's like anime chess? That it's, essentially just chess with kind of like a repainted anime face? Maybe some kind of kawaii Desu of sorts. Those are some very old memes for you, so there you go. Some very old internet memes. But is it anime chess? To some degree. The main similarities between Fire Emblem and chess are that in chess, when you're playing a skilled opponent or someone who's at or above or even around your rating, your chess rating, in other words, your player skill, you have to calculate the position and you have to make good, strong moves. And you also have to consider what your opponent is trying to do. So in that way, Fire Emblem is like chess. However, unlike chess, you don't typically sacrifice or exchange units. So one of the major aspects of chess is either trading down to simplify a position or sacking material to produce an advantage. Now, it's very rare for people to intentionally sacrifice a unit in Fire Emblem to gain an advantage. The main reason for this is units are not replaceable. If you sack a unit in chess, you'll get it back, right, in the next game. So if you sacrifice for an advantage, really the goal of chess is to win a game, right? To either draw or win, and to avoid losing, obviously. They have similar structures in terms of... I'm trying to find not lethal damage on this so that she can hit this. I don't know if you can tell that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to feed a unit XP here. But there's similar structure in chess where you have like your opening, you have your middle game and your end game. In chess, these are kind of segmented. I said it weird. Segmented kind of almost evenly, where your opening is a few moves, your middle game is usually maybe a few more moves than the opening, and then your end game is either quick because someone just like blundered a queen or got checkmated, or there's huge threats coming, or it takes a while because there's a bunch of pawn and king moves and minor or rook moves in some cases. Usually queens are off the board, there's like a rook or two, maybe like some minor pieces. So the key flow of chess from start to finish is you have all the material on the board when it starts, right? On both sides. You have your opening moves to try to establish and, improve your position. And then you have your middle game where you try to employ tactics to trick your opponent into getting into a worse position or into making mistakes or looking for some kind of advantage. Like, let's say they play a bad move and don't realize it's a bad move until you capitalize on it the next turn. So you're trying to establish some kind of advantage. And then you have your end game, where either someone has a clear advantage and is likely going to win. It's not clear who has an advantage and there's still some potential for play, or it's kind of like a draw. Like I've had end games where there's nothing you can do. Pawns are interlocked, kings are on either side, it's a draw. Like you can't do anything. No, there's no progress to be made. That happens sometimes. With that being said, Fire Emblem kind of operates in a different way, because unlike in chess, you don't have long-term investment in your units. There's not like stat growths, level ups, items. There's not a story. There's like this, the ways it's similar kind of make sense in the calculation and maybe like the phases of a battle, where there's like an opening, a middle game, and an end game. And most Fire Emblem games, though, the opening is like one or two moves, like one or two turns, and then you're just mostly in middle game until you get to like a resolved position, and then you're in a winning end game. And unless you know exactly what you're doing on a map in question, it's not clear that you're going to just beat the map, especially if it's on a high difficulty where it's insane and it's your first time doing that difficulty. Now, if you've done a difficulty multiple times, unlike in chess where your opponent will try different strategies and try different tactics, if you understand how to break down a Fire Emblem map and you understand like where the spawns are, what enemies are going to be on the map, what they're weak to, what units you should be running, if you have certain knowledge of the game, it becomes like very easy, almost to a point where it kind of plays itself. However, in chess, your opponent, if they're about as good as you, will always kind of keep you on your toes. Now, it is the case in Engage that the AI is smarter in this game, for sure. They're not as mindless as they are in other games, and they do kind of keep you on your toes. So I would say Engage is actually a little bit like playing an opponent in chess. But in terms of like mechanics, you have things that level up, that get better stats, you can get better items, you can min-max. There's no min-maxing in chess at all. There's just knowledge of the game and strong moves, So in terms of it being like, that's where that's like the key breaking point. The other thing is chess is one move a turn. This game is you move all of your things, they move all of their things. And the key thing you're trying to do when you move all of your things is to kill small groups of their things safely and slowly make progress. Or use a gimmick to go deliver checkmate. So funny enough, there are like some overall there's some similarities, but in the actual mechanics, they're very they're nothing alike. So for example, LTC runs are basically like sacrificing like a bishop to deliver checkmate or to win a queen. It's like a blitz or like a kind of like aggressive style of play, like Mikhail Tal, who was known for sacking material to deliver checkmate or to win queens or to win the game. Now obviously when you're playing a real opponent, hyper aggressive play can be punished with solid play. But in this game, for example, if you do like in Fire Emblem, you have like the warp a unit to a boss combo to kill it, and that's like a staple of the game that people love to use. So that's very similar to setting up some sneaky checkmate. However, the main difference is in this game you're fighting things that generally do the same things, whereas with chess you're usually playing other people. And even if you're playing like chess engines, like on levels a human can beat them, because chess engines will destroy you no matter what you do. They're better than Magnus Carlsen, so good luck. But if you're fighting chess engines that you could possibly beat, they'll even try different moves and do different things on you. So that's one of the things that isn't the case for chess. Chess is a simpler game, but the nature of chess kind of promotes variety, because if you keep doing the same opening and the same middle game against like a specific opponent, and that opponent always beats you, you have to adjust your strategy or understand what you're doing wrong. Whereas with this game, all of that is true, where if you're doing something wrong, you have to adjust your strategy. Once you understand a map, it's solved. And there's this notion of the map being solved. So this is why people tend to do self-imposed challenges like LTC or Iron Man, or, don't do, like, you're not allowed to do monastery for 3 houses, for example. Well, that was like a thing. Or no extra battles, no paralogs. These are common limitations people self-impose, because then what happens is if you deprive yourself of resources, you've now created a new map. So like if I decide to do a no emblem ring run on this game, which I might do eventually, which would be very hard to do from what I can understand. I would have to play maps completely differently. I wouldn't be able to do things that I could do normally, like with emblem ring. So I'd have to completely adjust my tactics. So solved maps become unsolved maps. Things that were known now become unknown. So that's one way people kind of keep things fresh, is by like all of a sudden adding limitation, like half unit size or half party size. You can deploy 12, you do half of that, do 6, beat it with 6 units. There's like all these different things you can do. But that's one of the things that is different between them. Chess is almost always dynamic. Even if you're playing the same person who has like go-to moves, they tend to start to do different things. Especially if they consistently lose against one of your openings or one of your defenses or whatever, like one of your tactics. They'll start to do different things and they'll start to mix it up on you. And I've personally beaten much better players than myself at chess just by doing crazy stuff that no one would prepare against. Like opening with like a rook pawn opening that people don't know. I mean, if you're good, here's the thing. I don't follow up on that. I just make that move like on the king side. Because then if they castle king side, I now have a pawn that I can start pushing towards their king side. And it's not in of itself a threat, but I've beaten good players that like stomped me like 10 games in a row by playing like weird, strange moves that they just don't understand. And not even because I have a good plan either. It's just like, it's a blitz game. You have 3 minutes to calculate like, you know, you castled kingside and there's a pawn advancing on you. There's easy ways to stop it. You can attack it. But the thing is, if you take that pawn and you can't attack it twice, I can recapture the rook, and now I have an open rook file on your king, like on the side. So it's not like a completely stupid move, but if someone's good, like if they're like a GM or like some kind of like titled player, they would easily punish this. But you know, in these like 1600 to 2000 rating games, maybe like 1900 rated games, people, you can get away with some nonsense. Okay, so I think it's fair to say it's kind of like anime chess. And here's the way I would describe it. If anime is taking something and making it more dramatic and extreme, then yeah, it's the anime of chess. I think that's a fair statement. I don't think that's a meme, because it has all the elements of chess. It just has more to it. Because anime tends to be like over the top. I think that's a fair statement. You have characters like being crazy emotionally. They have massive eyes. A lot of the plots are really dramatic and kind of all over the place and kind of nutty. And chess is kind of just this like low-key logic game. And you inject anime into chess and you kind of end up with something like Fire Emblem. Alright, so that's it for this video. It's not really useful information. It's more just like kind of like a meme video, I guess. In some ways. Not a meme video where there's like memes popping up every 5 seconds and like air horns going whatever the hell, but you know, a meme in that we're comparing chess to Fire Emblem, and yeah. Alright, so definitely like and subscribe if you found this interesting. Feel free to drop a comment if you play chess. I'm curious to know if any of you are rated players. What do you think about the differences between the games? How similar are they? I think they're definitely more different than similar, but in terms of like what you're doing when you're calculating a position, it's very similar. But the mechanics and the randomness with like hit rates definitely make it less like chess, because chess is, people say it's a game of pure skill, but I would say like memorization and knowledge factors in hugely too, because if you just know like 100 different opening traps and your opponent doesn't know any, but they're also like a decent player, you could probably trick them a lot of times and get wins. But then after that, you use that trick, now they probably know it. So it's very much like this weird thing where if you have certain knowledge on certain positions, it dramatically helps you. And skill factors in too, but it's mostly just in like pure calculation rather than like aiming a shot or something. And that's kind of similar to Fire Emblem in that way, where you have like your knowledge that you record, like you need knowledge of the game. You need to understand who's good and why, what's good and why, like what classes, what units, what weapons, what upgrades, what min-maxing. And then you also need to understand what moves to make, why to make those moves, and all these other different things. So in that way, the two are very similar. In terms of mechanics, they're not though, because like, you know, you have the random hits, the random crits, the random bits, and so on. All right, so that's it for this one. Peace.